या कुन्देन्दुतुषारहारधवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रावृता या वीणावरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युतशङ्करप्रभृतिभिः देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापहा शुक्लां ब्रह्मविचारसारपरमाद्यां जगद्व्यापिनीं वीणापुस्तकधारिणीमभयदां जाड्यान्धकारापहा हस्ते स्फाटिकमालिकां विदधतीं पद्मासने संस्थितां वन्दे तां परमेश्वरीं भगवतीं बुद्धिप्रदां शारदाम् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। आत्मीय स्वजन, first of all, let me express my pleasure to see you in such a wonderful atmosphere. It is so, as Sidhu said in the introduction, it is so unique, it is such a different event. I feel like I am addressing the classroom with such genuine students. Beginning with Dr. Arvind Shah, who could be as naughty as he could be in his school, to Manish. So nice to see you here. And we have Shailesh Taylor coming here from Toronto. And I had Katha in Toronto. He specifically asked me that I want to come for this event, and I put him in contact with Sidhu. Welcome you all to this wonderful 3-day journey on Chanakya. Yes, as Sidhu said in the beginning, if you Google Chanakya, it's perfect. You don't need to do anything. It's correct. If you Google Chanakya, you will get to know a lot of things, and most of them wrong. Simply because I tried it. I knew it very well that I'm going to address a very educated New York audience on Chanakya. So I should know what I should not be speaking. I should know what my audiences will definitely know about it. Most of it is wrong because they do not know Sanskrit language. Chanakya was an absolute scholar in Sanskrit. He himself was a professor at Takshashila University, one of the most respected universities of ancient world. I'm not talking about India, ancient world, where people, students used to come from all over the globe to study. Nalanda and Takshashila. He was a professor there, having absolute command over Sanskrit language. And whenever he gave these dictates, he gave these aphorisms of Chanakya Niti and Arthashastra Sutras, he was going to create an empire. And this was going to be an inspirational aphorisms for kings. Obviously, they can't be as simple as they seem to be. There was a secret in it. Most English translations have translated these sutras in verbatim, and that's where they missed the point. They could not go to the depth of what Chanakya has to communicate, simply because of lack of knowledge of Sanskrit language. To begin with, Arthashastra. In 99.9% of English translation, they say Arthashastra. Artha is money. So Arthashastra is economics. Wrong. In ancient India, especially in Sanskrit, Artha cannot be translated only as money. Artha has various interpretations. Artha is one of the four main pillars of the human life, four main goals of human life. Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. Dharma is righteousness. Dharma is not religion. So I would humbly differ from Setubhai when he announced that it is a socio-religious event. No. Dharma is righteousness. And I think it is time that Western encyclopedia accept the word dharma as they have accepted the word karma now. Dharma is not religion. Dharma is righteous. That's the closest word in English language. Artha, in broad terms, it means resources. So whenever, during this 3 days journey, when I talk of Arthashastra, mind well, you will never find this meaning anywhere. Artha is resources, means. Artha could also be translated as purpose. We all know the Sanskrit word swartha. Swa-artha is for me. A person who's swarthi, selfish. Why? Because he constantly thinks for himself. So artha is purpose. Artha is resources. Artha is means. And obviously, artha does mean money, no doubt about it. Wealth. So when Chanakya gives us Arthashastra, he does not give only the science to create wealth. It is basically the science to create power, science to maintain that power, and science to create resources to be powerful. And that power is not just muscle power, it's wealth power, it's social power, it's political power, it's military power. And in modern times, when you are heading a corporate, it is your organizational power, management power, precisely management. Success in life is decided by the management skills that you have. If you go to say, resources that the world has to offer are equal for everyone. A person who lands at JFK airport has entire land of United States open for him. Resources are open for him. He can decide to go anywhere. What makes a person successful? There are some people who have really made it by coming here. And there are some people who just, even after slogging for 40 years, they are making barely 2 ends meet. What made the difference? The country? No. Their own skill of management. Resources were there in front of them. How did they exploit these resources to their advantage? Their intellect. How they use their skill. So, we have time. One of the most important resources we always undervalue. How do we manage our time? Intellect. And let me tell you, there is not too much of a difference in intellectual levels of people. If you see the results, yeah, there are exceptionally good people, but maybe 2% of them. Rest 98% of people have approximately the same intelligence, same intellect. They don't vary. Again, you had the same intellect. How did you manage it? What direction did you give to your thoughts? You had your body. It's one of the main assets that we have, Chanakya says. How well do we manage our body? How good care do we take of our body? At the age of 20, 25, everyone is practically having the same strength. Forget those 2 to 5% who are probably children of lesser God, they have problem at a very young age. Otherwise, at youth, we all have the same strength of the body. How well do we manage our body? Time, body, intellect, relations. How well do we manage them? There could be 10,000 people knowing me world over. I'm just giving a rough estimate of it. But everyone does not derive the same type of wisdom that a few people do. Similarly, it's interactive. Your family, your surroundings, your friend circle, your relatives. How well do we manage them? Dear brothers and sisters, it's all about management of resources. And Chanakya teaches us effective management of these resources to be successful in life. And not just success. Again, success you measure in terms of money, which is a very big mistake. What is success according to Chanakya? He says success is how meaningful life that you are leading and the amount of contentment that you have. It's not just the physics, the gadgets that you have gathered. It's not the size of your home. How much contented you are at the end of the day. Chanakya is the most successful management counselor, management guru that the world has produced. A few years ago, somebody compared him to a Machiavelli of India. Last week I was in Rome, Italy. Somebody compared him to Machiavelli of India. This is an insult of Chanakya. Chanakya is not Machiavelli of India. Chanakya, A, is senior to Machiavelli. B, he is much more powerful and effective than Machiavelli, because Machiavelli gave tenets only pertaining to the court of the king, while Chanakya covers much wider area of human life, not only restricting himself to the court of a king. Chanakya established tenets, and there are 5 characteristics of his tenets. First of all, these tenets are exhaustive and they account for every conceivable situation. If you study Chanakya, he says, in fact, in the beginning of Chanakya Niti, in the first chapter, 3rd verse, Chanakya says, Tadaham sampravakshyami lokanam hitakamyaya yena vijnana matrena sarvajnatvam prapadyate. Tadaham sampravakshyami. I am going to say that. And sampravakshyami, say it beautifully, say it meaningfully. And why am I going to say it? Lokanam hitakamyaya. I am going to say it for the purpose of people's good, for people's well-being. Lokanam hitakamyaya. Chanakya was a very selfless person. The most important thing that I like and respect about Chanakya is, in spite of being a kingmaker, he always kept away from the lure and the attraction of wealth, power, or anything, which is so difficult. If your friend becomes a Senate member, you go and tell to 50 people. You keep that photo of the friend ready in your hand. He's my friend, he's my friend. And the chances are you might have met him just at one dinner where you have paid $2,000 to just click this photograph. And he doesn't even recognize you and remember you. But power. I know somebody who's powerful. I know somebody who's influential. People are so very tempted for power announcement. Here Chanakya was a kingmaker. The king considered himself as a guru. King knew it very well. Chandragupta Maurya knew it very well that he has become king only because of Chanakya, no other person, no other reason. Even then, Chanakya stood away. He kept away from this lure or lust for money. Very known example is clarity about the state wealth and personal wealth. It was a night time and Chanakya was writing a book. Obviously, the lamp was burning. And a Chinese visitor came to meet Chanakya. This example that I am quoting is from Chinese records. A Chinese visitor came to meet Chanakya. And Chanakya said, I'm about to finish a chapter. Please wait for some time. And that visitor said, okay, it's my pleasure, I'll wait. He sat there. Chanakya kept writing for about 15 minutes or so. And when the chapter was over, he said, thank you for waiting. And then he extinguished the oil lamp which was burning and lighted another lamp right next to it. And then he said, let us talk now. Now this thing surprised the Chinese visitor. He said, both are oil lamps, both look the same. Why did you extinguish this lamp and lighted another one? Because I could see there is enough oil in that lamp. Chanakya said, my writing work was for the state and the oil for this lamp comes from the state. But now you are my guest and I am entertaining you. I cannot burn the state oil, the royal treasury oil. Now this is my oil that I am burning and we can talk. Can you imagine the clarity? Can you imagine the honesty? I mean, it's a minute thing in life. Otherwise, as I said, he was the kingmaker. If he wished, he could have become king himself. But he always remained distant from such temptations. And that is not easy. What made Chanakya Chanakya? There are so many stories about it, but I am going to tell you just the historical fact. Chanakya was a Brahmin. His original name was Vishnugupta. He was Acharya. That was a degree. That was the highest degree. In modern day, you can say doctorate, PhD doctorate, Acharya. Meaning he could teach students. He was in the 3rd century BC. So roughly 2300 years from now. Vishnugupta was his name. His father's name was Chanakya, and hence Vishnugupta was also known as Chanakya. His Gotra, family lineage, was Kutila, and hence Chanakya was known as Kautilya, born in a Kutil lineage. And well, those of you who are Gujarati, Kutil meaning cunning and all, don't go into those translations. Kutil does not mean cunning in Sanskrit. Yeah, because we try to, हमने आवड़े છે ને, MBA, મને બધું આવડે. Let's just restrict ourselves to what I am saying. Kutil Gotra family lineage was Kautilya. His father was a scholarly Brahmin, was doing karma kand and all. Chanakya went to study, and after years when he came back, he saw the pathetic situation of his kingdom. His village was devastated. There was nobody. And people were poor. King had become uncontrolled. It was actually Nanda dynasty. King belonged to the Nanda dynasty. And that king was Dhanananda. He was charging exorbitant taxes. Chanakya has written, taxes were approximately 50% charged by the king. And what remained in the hands of people, the remaining 50% amount, half of that amount would be extorted by the ministers of the king in corruption. So if you are earning $100, you are left with just 25. And that's not a very good scene. People were unhappy. And people's unhappiness was royally ignored by the king and his ministers. Chanakya knew this. And he knew it very well that king is not the owner of his kingdom. King is basically a servant to his people. And if king forgets his duty, it is not right for the kingdom. Initially, with a very good intention to bring the king on the right path, Chanakya went to his court and said to the king Dhanananda, Your Honor, there is a lot of unsatisfaction in the minds of people. King Dhanananda was so arrogant, he said, unsatisfaction? People don't have right to be unsatisfied. Chanakya said, Your Honor, they are giving 50% in the tax and remaining 25% to the bureaucracy and ministers as corruption. They can't run their families. You can't tax people to such a high degree. Dhanananda said, if people don't pay tax, how can we run the government? How can the kingdom go on? And it is always the mentality of people, they never like to pay taxes. Chanakya tried to argue. Your Honor, you are saying that people don't like to pay taxes. If people are not paying taxes, how could you afford such a palatial comfort, and how could you afford such luxuries? Not only you, but your ministers, your bureaucrats. Please awaken. Please be alarmed. The king insulted Dhanananda. The king Dhanananda insulted Chanakya and ordered his guards to kick this man out of the. And Chanakya tried to argue for the well-being of the king. those guards held Chanakya from his shikha, choti, and in that bargain, the shikha opened up. Usually Brahmins tie knot to their shikha. But in that bargain, in that hustle, in that scuffle that ensued with the guards of the king, the shikha opened up. And Chanakya was so flared. He said to King Dharananda, I had come with an intention to improve your system so that you continue being a king, but a good king, so that people will be happy in your kingdom. But now that you have insulted me, I will make sure that you are impeached. And till the time you are not impeached, I vow that I will not die my shikha. This is one of the biggest vows that Indian culture remembers even today. It took almost 20 years for Chanakya to bring about this change. Chanakya was thinking what to do now. And then he was invited by Takshashila University to serve as a teacher. Even today, the remnants of Takshashila University are found in today's Pakistan. In the border of Pakistan and Afghanistan, there was this Takshashila. And today now they call it Taxila, Taxila. That's how that town is known. Actually, it is Takshashila. This was the time around 330 BC. While teaching here, Chanakya was searching for a brave person who could be appointed as the next king, trained and appointed as the next king. He found one. Now there are some stories that he found while he was passing through out of the village. Some children were playing, and this young boy, he had such power. He was acting as a king in a game that children play. But he was so very involved in his acting, and he was so authentic in his acting, that attracted Chanakya, and he selected him. There are some records which say that Chandragupta was bought because his mother was a maid servant called Mura. Her name was Mura, and hence Chandragupta was known Maurya, who established the Maurya dynasty. He was bought, I'm using this word, he was bought for 1,000 pana. This was the currency at that time, pana. He gave 1,000 pana to Mura and said, give your son to me, I will educate him, and I will make sure that he becomes a big man that you are proud of. Mura gave her son to Chanakya. Now this was the time, if you study history, Alexander had attacked India, looted India. Well, Alexander went back and he died in Greece. But he had left his commanders to rule certain territories on the northwest frontier border of India, which is modern Punjab, Kabul, which is in Pakistan, but Punjab is in India. That Kashmir, these northwest frontier areas were ruled by Greek commanders. Obviously, they did not love people. They also had become very licentious. And their people were also unhappy. Chanakya took advantage of this people's unhappiness. He made people revolt against their commanders, these Greek commanders, and used Chandragupta's strength. Obviously, these commanders had very big army, and Chandragupta Maurya had very small army at that time. But because of the revolt of local people, Chanakya became successful. Don't worry, please don't worry, I'm okay. I'm okay. Okay, let me take this. Chanakya became successful. This initial success gave so much of confidence to both Chanakya and Chandragupta Maurya that they finally eyed their ultimate goal to dethrone Dhanananda. Now Dhanananda, if you know Indian map, here Takshashila and northwest frontier border is the western part of India. Punjab and all those regions. And Dhanananda was in Pataliputra, modern Patna, Bihar, extreme eastern India. And they were very powerful. But with his extreme and meticulous planning, Kautilya became successful in dethroning Dhanananda. And it is said that when Dhanananda was beheaded, Chanakya tied his shikha. He said, I wanted to do good for you, but you did not agree. So this is your end now. Established a very powerful kingdom, put in Chandragupta Maurya as the king, and he expanded the kingdom to such an extent in Bauddha and Jain literature. It is written that Chanakya brought under his rule 16 existing kingdoms. Modern entire North India and Pakistan, everything was under Chanakya's rule. And south, up to Shravanabelagola, Mysore. So this entire region, for the first time probably, Indian continent saw such a powerful kingdom. Otherwise it was always divided into small kingdoms. Only 4 times in the entire Indian history, the Indian Union has come. And the credit goes to Chanakya for doing it for the first time. Next, it came under King Ashoka. Third time, it was King Akbar who tried to bring, but he was not as efficient and as successful because Mughals could never cross Vindhya mountain range. They could never go into south. So if you travel India, you will know, in South India, we still find ancient temples because Mughals could not destroy. In northern India, they destroyed all the ancient temples and everything, but they could not penetrate to the south. They could not cross Vindhya. Setubhai referred to Google. It just reminded me of a joke. Maratha people were so powerful under the leadership of Shivaji Maharaj. Aurangzeb spent most of his time as a king, 45 years, to defeat Marathas and go into the south, but he could not go. Because Shivaji was fighting a guerrilla warfare. He would attack the army and then hide himself in this mountainous terrain. They will never come in hand. Frustrated, Finally, Aurangzeb he announced that whoever brings Shivaji, living or dead, in front of me, I would reward him with entire continent of the South India. For good 5 years, Shivaji was untraceable. He would attack the Mughal army, he would defeat them and hide himself. Aurangzeb, frustrated, because he was a very powerful Mughal king. That lineage was called Mughal emperors. Babur, Humayun, Akbar, Aurangzeb, Shah Jahan, Jahangir, Aurangzeb, all were Mughal emperors. Aurangzeb was addressing his commandos. He said, 5 years and you can't find one person, Shivaji. What is the reason? One of the commandos answered, because we are Mughals and we are not Google. My point is, that was the third person, Akbar, who could form this. And fourth was, we should be proud of in modern India, especially we should be proud of being Gujaratis. It was Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel who brought entire India. And the amount of intellect, the amount of Kutaniti, amount of political sense he needed, especially for Junagadh, Hyderabad. It's such an interesting history. So only 4 times in the entire history of Indian continent, the whole continent has come under one power. First was under Kautilya, and last is brought by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Chanakya could do this because his tenets, he established these tenets which are exhaustive and they account for every perceivable situation. Secondly, Chanakya is effective because he practiced what he preached. His tenets were intensely practiced by Chanakya himself. He tested for himself whatever he preached. Third, he created a dynasty and installed Chandragupta Maurya as a king. Fourth, these tenets were responsible for inspiring and guiding one of the best bureaucratic system the world has known. Not only India, the world has known. And this system worked very effectively for 136 years continuously without any change. And in a political science, this is a very long period. If the same tenets are used for more than a century and they are used effectively, it's a very big success. And lastly, these tenets of Chanakya are applicable even today. You may ask, are we going to implement Chanakya exactly the way he preached 2300 years ago? No, he cannot be. Let us accept one thing, that all the great personalities who address people in front of them, though they try to give a timeless message, these messages need to be mended a little bit. They need to be put in the modern perspective. You cannot put into practice what Chanakya said 2300 years ago in verbatim today. That's where we need to apply our mind. We need to think a little bit. What was the situation there? And what is the situation in front of us? As an example, Chanakya has said so many things about the emperor and kingdom. in modern times, we can interpret it as a corporate. An emperor is a CEO of the corporation. Chanakya wrote 3 treatises. First, Arthashastra. It has 6,000 hymns, mainly prose, with about 360 verses. The book, the treatise, Arthashastra, is divided into 15 adhikarana, main chapters. 15 adhikarana, 150 adhyay, and 180 prakran. Each prakran deals with a particular subject. Secondly, what we are going to focus more on in these 3 days is Chanakya Niti. It has more to do with day-to-day life, a common man. It has 12 chapters and 307 verses. And the third is Chanakya Sutra. Chanakya has Chanakya Sutra has around 570 to 572 sutras. Sutras, aphorisms. Out of them, about 200 to 220 aphorisms are addressed to the king for carrying on the governmental work. And remaining sutras are for us. As I call it, they are for life management. According to Chanakya, before we enter into Chanakya Niti and Chanakya Sutras, one thing is very important. Chanakya firmly believed that effective management is always from top to bottom and not from bottom to top. Chanakya firmly believed that Ragni Dharmini Dharmishtaha Pape Papa Same Sama Rajana Manuvartante Yatha Raja Tatha Praja. People always follow the king. Most people in the society are always followers. People do not want to take their own decisions. People do not want to take their own responsibilities. They just want to follow an ideal. Now the point is who the ideal is. Yatha Raja Tatha Praja. If the ideal, if the hero, the king is good, people will be good. If the king is wrong, people will be wrong. Ragni Dharmini Dharmishta. If the king is religious, if the king is righteous, people will be righteous. Pape Papaha. If the king is a sinner, people will also be sinners. Same Samaha. If the king is equal, not too much righteous, not too much sinner, then people will also be like that. Rajana Manuvartante. People always follow the leader, the king. Yatha Raja Tatha Praja. So, if you want to change people, you need to change the king. And that's what he exactly did. He changed Dhanananda and he established Chandragupta Maurya. And obviously people were very happy in the kingdom. He says in the first verse, in the third verse of the first chapter of Chanakya Niti, that Tadaham sampravakshyami, I am going to tell you that Lokanam hitakamyaya, for the well-being of people, yena vijnana matrena sarvajnatvam prapadyate. Once you know this, once you understand this, sarvajnatvam prapadyate, you will be able to understand things in the correct perspective. Let us understand why people are unhappy today. According to Chanakya and most social scientists, social psychologists, unhappiness doesn't come from outside. Unhappiness is created from person's own mental state. Just by giving a few things, you can't make people happy. Or just by taking a few things away, you cannot make people unhappy. Happiness or unhappiness is basically a state of mind and which is a person's own domain. It is their own understanding of the situation. How do you interpret life? What is your perception towards this existence? Remember, we choose our happiness and we choose our sorrows. Nobody can make us happy, nobody can make us unhappy. It is our own perception. The more and more people become self-centric, remember, the more and more they will be unhappy in life. No matter how much they have gathered, no matter how much wealth they have gathered, no matter how much material happiness they have, the very fact that they are self-centered will make them unhappy. And the more and more person opens up to help others, to share his happiness with others, he will become happier. In modern times, in spite of having all the wealth, in spite of having all the material gadgets that the technological development has given us, people are unhappy. Why? Because everyone is becoming self-centered. I is becoming so big. I and me. That we have forgotten the entirety of the situation. Our perception is so polarized or such wrong. Let me give you this example. Today, sun rose exactly in the right time. Today, the wind blew, the air blew properly. Today, the oxygen content in the atmosphere was fantastic. Today, rivers all over the world today, water had a right combination of hydrogen and oxygen, H2O, two molecules of hydrogen and one molecule of oxygen. Today, birds chirp very well. Today, so many flowers bloomed. Today, so many children smiled. Today, there was a high tide and low tide in the ocean at the right time. I have been describing so many things. And look at your faces. So, as if it doesn't matter to you. Rising of the sun at the right time, rising of the moon at the right time, blowing of wind, flowing of rivers, having enough oxygen content in the atmosphere, chirping birds, blooming flowers, smiling children. It just doesn't matter. And why is your face like a pumpkin? Because the moment I got up, my spouse told me this, and my whole day is ruined. Your whole day is ruined because one person in your family told you something. Where is the perspective? Look at the entire picture of this universe. This endless universe. And in this entire universe, there is one Milky Way that we exist in. And in that entire Milky Way, there is one solar family, our sun, S-O-N sun, S-U-N sun, solar family. In that entire zodiac system, one planet called Earth. In this such a big Earth, one continent, North America, and that is we call world soccer championship. And who's playing? America and Canada. Is this the end of the world? Come out of it now. In that North America, United States, in that United States, there are 50 states. Out of that one state, New York. In this New York, there are so many towns. In that one town, New Hyde Park. In New Hyde Park, there are so many streets and roads and lanes and by-lanes, and one of that by-lanes, Lakeville Road. On that Lakeville Road, there are so many buildings and homes. Out of those homes, there is one home, number 100. And in that home, there are 7 people. And in those 7 people, there is one you. And that is the biggest problem in this universe. I think so. Who cares what you think? So the bigger the I, the bigger the sorrow. The bigger the I, the bigger the unhappiness. Replace this I with the world. Such a beautiful sunrise, such beautiful wind blowing, such beautiful atmosphere. The entire world goes on, irrespective of I being there. So, this is what Chanakya focused more on. Have your perspective right. Have your perception right. Our perception is always distorted, and that is the cause of our suffering. Chanakya says that one who studies this scripture of mine, yena vijnana matrena sarvajnatvam prapadyate. Sarvajna, he will have correct perspective. He may not become omniscient. And it is not necessary to be omniscient. One cannot be. There is so much of knowledge in the world that nobody can claim to be an omniscient person. If I am in this field, I am in this spiritual field, so well, I know Srimad Bhagavad, I know Srimad Ramayana, I know Srimad Bhagavad Gita, I know Upanishads, I know Vedas. But then if I am coughing, I have to call Dr. Arvind Shah. I cannot be omniscient. That just because I know everything. Nobody in this world can claim to be omniscient. When Chanakya says that yena vijnana matrena sarvajnatvam prapadya, what happens? This sarvajnatvam is not omniscience. It is basically having a correct perspective. That will solve a lot of our problems. In Chanakya Sutra, the very first aphorism that Chanakya gives us is Sa Shrirvo Vyat Sa Shri Vah Avyat. That Shri may protect us. This is the Mangalacharan of Chanakya Sutra. That Shri is wealth. Shri is beauty. Shri is power. The commentators wrote, Sa prasiddha paramasampat prada Shrihi Aishwaryadhishtatru devata vo yushman avyat payat iti. Even in Sri Suktam, Rishi says, Tamiho pavvaye shriyam, or Shriyam Devi Mupavvaye Shrirma Devi Jushatam. Of the four pillars or the goals of human life, Chanakya focuses more on Artha. He very categorically says that Artha eva pradhana iti Kautilya. A person can be righteous. How? If he has Artha, if he has resources, if he has wealth. I'm coming to those sutras today. A person can enjoy the pleasures of the world only if he will have Artha, the wealth, resources. And a person can attain liberation only if he has enough Artha, resources. Because if his Artha, his resources are not enough, he is unsatisfied in life, he will crave for more and more, and this craving will create his cycle of births and deaths. In order to be liberated, see how beautifully Chanakya puts everything on Artha. He says that if one aspect of life, your Artha, your resources, your wealth aspect is taken care of correctly, then your Dharma, Kama and Moksha, liberation, everything will be taken care of. Everything will be balanced. It is like Artha is a fulcrum which balances these three aspects of life. A person who's devoid of Artha, resources, even if he goes to the temples, he will always go begging. Dear God, give me this. Dear God, give me this. How can he actually establish a bond with God of love? He cannot establish because that's a business for him. I am doing 2 malas. God, can you give me this? I am doing so many parts. God, can you give me this? Can I have promotion? Can I have a bigger job, better job? So a person who is devoid of Artha will not be able to love God. A person who is devoid of Artha obviously cannot enjoy the pleasures of life. So Kama is out of question. And a person who is devoid of Artha, the resources, cannot even liberate himself. So Artha eva pradhana, Kautilya says. Sa Shri, that Shri, the goddess of wealth, who blesses us all with the resources, may protect us. And most important, there are 7 aphorisms of Chanakya. Today, in this introductory talk, I'm going to give you these 7 aphorisms, and tomorrow and day after, we'll see the relevant shlokas from Chanakya Niti to elaborate these 7 basic aphorisms. It is called Mulani. Mula, again, 2 meanings. A, Mula is a root, and B, Mool is a foundation. In order to be steady, in order to have a very strong foundation, you need to have these things. Which are these? First. And these aphorisms are almost algebraic formulae in words. First sutra. Sukhasya moolam dharmaha, Chanakya says. Sukhasya moolam dharmaha. Dharma, righteousness, is the foundation of happiness. I will just chant this sutra, translate it for you, and then discuss about it briefly for today. Sukhasya moolam dharma. Moolani, the foundations that Chanakya is writing. Secondly, dharmasya moolam arthaha, Chanakya says. The foundation of happiness is righteousness, and the foundation of dharma is artha. Dharmasya moolam, controlling the sense organs, conquering the senses. Because if the king becomes licentious, the kingdom cannot survive. If the ministers become licentious, if the bureaucracy becomes lustful, the kingdom cannot survive. So, Rajya moolam indriya jayaha. If you want a very powerful kingdom, make sure that the king, the ministers, the bureaucrats have absolute victory over their sense organs. They are not the victims of their lust. Indriya jayasya moolam vinayaha, Kautilya says. Humility. And there are various meanings of vinaya, but the first meaning that comes to my mind is vinaya. Humility is the foundation for indriya jaya. Humility is the foundation for the victory over senses. Vinayasya moolam vruddhopaseva. Seva. Vruddhopaseva. Serving the elderly and knowledgeable people is the foundation of humility. And lastly, Chanakya says, Mantra moolaha sarvarambhaha. All the beginnings, all the projects, arambhaha, projects, are endeavors, projects. Mantra moolaha. They have their foundation in mantra. Mantra is negotiation, mantrana, discussion. And Chanakya gives lot of importance to this mantra. And he gives so much importance to the secrecy of this mantra. I mean, in one of the sutras he says that if you find somebody leaking this mantra, he should be beheaded right away. It's such a harsh punishment. Where you should do your mantra? Your conference room. How should it be? Because that's where you exchange your ideas. That's where all the projects take shape. Chanakya says the conference room should not have windows. And if they have windows, they should be curtained. The sound should not go out of the conference room. So they should be made soundproof. Person standing outside, there are some people, what's happening inside? A person who's standing outside should not know what's been discussed inside. In modern times, we believe in transparency. I visit so many offices, Padramani, when we do, we say we believe in openness. Our conference room is like glass and all. According to Chanakya, that's not correct. Even if your sound doesn't come out, by your body language, if a smart person is observing you, he will know what is being discussed. And the authority of a king lies in the secrecy of the mantra. Only the king, only the leader should know what he is going to do. If all the cards are open, it makes the king weak. I'll come to that minute. Mantra Mula Sarvarambha. Chanakya is very particular about this mantra, secrecy of the Sukhasya Moolam Dharmaha, Chanakya says. Dharma Sarvesham Bhutanam Madhu. What is Dharma? The beautiful definition of Dharma. Sarvesham Bhutanam Madhu. That which makes everyone happy is called Dharma. That which makes everyone happy. Mahabharata gives a very beautiful definition of Dharma. Dharana Dharma Mityaho Dharmo Dharayate Praja. Dharana Dharma Mityaho Naloka Charitam Charet. When you want to hold the society, when you want to govern the society, you need set of rules, and their strict implementation is essential. That is called Dharma. Naloka Charitam Charet. Dharma is not Lokacharit. Lokacharit meaning such and such person says this and they say this and this is what people say. Nothing doing. People's hearsay cannot be Dharma. Naloka Charitam Charit. And if you see, in your families, especially at the time of weddings, there is other time is when someone has passed away in the family. These are the two occasions. Nobody cares for Shastra, nobody cares for what scriptures say. What is the Dharma at that time? People say. This is what our aunt says, this is what our uncle said, and this is what we have been doing in our village back home in India. Lokacharitam. That is not Dharma. Dharana Dharma Vityahu. And such a Dharma Lokanam Abhyudaya Nishreyasa Hetuhu. Even the most atheist Rishi that we have in India, Kanad, he always believed in molecules. He was a physicist basically. He did not believe in God. He did not believe in heaven or hell. He says everything is molecules. And there is a system in this molecular arrangement and the reactions. And that is how the world goes on. Kanad. Kana literally means a molecule. Pilava. When he was breathing his last, people told him, Kanad, now these are your last moments. At least say the name of God and you will be delivered. Even in the last moment, if you chant God's name, and Kanad was so firm in his belief, he says, nothing doing. He kept chanting, Pilavaha, 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 atoms, atoms, atoms. And he left his body. But such a Kanad, he gives a definition of Dharma. He says, Dharana Dharma Mityaho Dharmo Dharayate Praja. Sorry, not that. That's the definition of Mahabharata. Kanad says, Yato Abhyudaya Nishreyasa Siddhi Sadharma. That by which a person is made happy in this world and his well-being is guaranteed in the births to come is called Dharma. Aihikabhyudayasya niti mulakatvad nitescha sukhayetu. What does Kautilya say? Sukhasya moolam dharma. If you want to be happy, you have to be dharmic. is so true. A person going on the wrong path, a person who is accumulating wealth by wrong means, cannot be happy. Because while creating this latest model of evolution, and the model called Homo sapien, God has put something called conscience in each one of us. A person who is not dharmic, a person who does wrong, may with his skillfulness impress the others, but when he is standing in front of mirror, when he is alone, he cannot answer himself. Because to himself he knows that I have done something wrong. I have done that should not be done. I have exploited others. And that conscience does not let him be happy. And happiness is a very subjective matter. Objects cannot make you happy. I've given this example so many times. Eggplant is good or bad? Tell me. Ringunu. How many of you say that eggplant is good? It makes you happy. Ramesh Vaishnav, please raise your hands. Only these people? I'm going to order eggplant vegetable tomorrow. How many of you like eggplant vegetable? So these are the people whom eggplant makes happy. And how many people don't like eggplant? What has eggplant to do with it? See, eggplant is an object. It is your interpretation whether you want to be happy with it or not. It is not bothered whether you be happy or not. All the objects, you derive happiness from the object, it's your personal interpretation. Similarly, people, we are happy with some people, we are not happy with some others. But the people whom we are not happy with may be the source of happiness for some others. Happiness does not stay outside. The source of happiness is not outside, it is within us. And it is the righteousness, it is the dharma which trains us to be happy in all the scenario. Those who have walked the path of dharma, devotees, look at their lives. They have faced adversities. Study the life of each and every devotee in the world, irrespective of which faith he has followed, he or she has followed. It could be Narsi Mehta, it could be Meera, it could be Nanak, it could be Tulsidas, it could be Surdas, it could be Mansoor, it could be Christ, it could be Socrates. No matter which faith they followed, they had to face adversities. But even amongst those adversities, they were not unhappy. You will never find a devotee complaining to God that, oh God, I am such a big devotee of yours, and look at my life, what's happening? Are you there or not? A devotee never says that. Why? Because the source of happiness is within him. If it were outside, people would have prepared pills and capsules, happiness capsules. and available over the counter. But it's not available. Sukhasya moolam dharma. Dharma is a system which trains you to be happy in all the situations, no matter what. Without following the dharma, a person cannot be happy. And that is why Chanakya Niti says where to stay. If you want to be happy, Chanakya gives us some practical suggestions. Yasmin deshe na sammano na vrittir na cha bandhavaha na cha vidyagamopyaste vasastatra na karayet. In the first chapter of Chanakya Niti, is the 8th verse. Do not inhabit a country where you are not respected. Yasmin deshe na sammano. See, your happiness lies where you are respected. You go to the wedding reception of your distant relative because you have received an invitation card simply because you are related to that person. And when you reach there, your table is somewhere right in the corner. And nobody comes to your table. Eat your meal. It's probably there are 50 items in dinner. But nobody bothers whether you eat or not. Nobody comes even to say hello to you. You are not respected there. And there is another event where you go to India, your hometown, and your old school friend suddenly meets you. He recognizes you and says, come over for dinner tonight at my place. And you go there. He's a poor person living in probably a hut. He just feeds you with millet bread, bajra rotlo, and chili. But he gives you so much of respect. He doesn't even have electrical fan. He, with his clothes, he puts those flies away. Do you want water? Shall I give you some curd? I don't have a refrigerator home, so it might be sour by now, but I made some buttermilk out of it. You need some salt. Can I bring some jaggery for you? Would you care for another rotlo? And he just sips by. Please have more. Please have some more. Which dinner do you enjoy more? Those 50 items or this bajra rotlo? The second one. Obviously, because you are respected. Your happiness is not in objects. Your happiness is where you are respected. Yasmin deshe na sammano. So where you are not respected, don't stay for a minute over there. Na vrittihi. Vritti means the source of income. Everybody has some or the other ability to create wealth. But you are in such a place that there is no such scope for your profession. Now, either you have to exhibit extra skill and create a new market entirely, or just leave that place. Navrittir nacha bandhavaha. Relatives, friends. Man, all said and done, is a social animal. We need our people. In the evening when we get home, we want to pick up phone and call somebody. How are you? Yes, tell me what. Na bas samajhta ja. We want to do that. Just like that. Yeah, look at that. Social animals. Nabandava. Nacha vidyagamo and Chanakya is very categorical about this. Nacha vidyagamo, where there are no source of vidya, knowledge, where you cannot enhance your knowledge, where you cannot enhance your wisdom, where people are close-minded. Pasastatra nakarayet. Don't stay there, you won't be happy. And in the next verse, Chanakya says, Dhani Shrutriyo Raja Nadi Vaidyastu Panchamaha Pancha Yatra Na Vidyante Na Tatra Divaso Vasit. You should not be even staying for a day where these 5 things are not there. Which 5 things? Dhani, where there is no wealthy person. As I said, Chanakya gives a lot of importance to the wealth. Whenever you go to some, are there wealthy people over there? That is the place to stay. Because there is a scope. If one person has made it, probably you can also make it. But there are no rich people at all. You should not be staying there. Dhani. Shrotriyo. Shrotriyo is a scholarly Brahmin. Brahman was scholar in Vedic lore. You should have scholarly people over there. Dhani, Shrotriyo, Raja, there should be a king, there should be a leader, an effective leader in that community. That is the place to stay. Nadi, there should be a river. See, India was an agricultural economy. Once you talk of a river, your water problems are solved. Also, river brings in so much of fertile land. Your agriculture is taken care of. Dhani, Shrotriyo, Raja, Nadi, and 5th, Vaidya, a physician. A society where there are no doctors, you shouldn't be staying there. Na tatra divaso vase. Chanakya says, don't even stay there for a day. Don't even go for vacation to such places. You should have this one. But such wise things Chanakya is saying. It's past 10 o'clock. We'll talk about it tomorrow and day after. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Hare Paramatmane Pranata Kleshanasha Govindaya